I'm excited to watch the 4 worst teams from last season this coming year. I want to watch what Orlando does with Paolo Banchero. I want to watch what Houston does with their young guys from Jalen Green all the way to Jabari
I
Smith.
love Jalen Green. Ever since he was drafted, I've thought of him. He reminds me of. I
remember you said James Harden a while ago.
No. But he's better than James Harden.
He might be. Yeah,
he's better than James Harden. I would say. I mean, he has the ability, like he's got the speed to get to the hole like an Allen Iverson, but he could shoot. He's good offensively, and he proved last year in certain aspects his defensive game could really, really dominate too. I mean, that kid is going to be. You see what John Moran is going to be. I think Green's going to be right there at that level. I think he's going to be fun to watch. I really do.
I mean, it's exciting.
Yes.
But, like, that's the thing. Just across the league, LaMelo Ball reviving Charlotte to a degree where it's at least worth watching.
I can't stand that kid.
Of course you can't. But everybody else, it's League Pass. It's somebody that wants to have fun is going to watch him because it's exciting. He's going to make it fun. It's exciting to watch. Maybe you're not in for fun. I don't know. You're a Knicks fan.
Hold on. Because I'm a Knicks fan, I'm not in for fun. Come on, man. I don't even watch the Knicks.
Have the Hornets been that much worse than the Knicks?
I watched 15 games of the Knicks this year. I can't even watch them half the time. And one of the main reasons why I can't watch them is the way they play the game. I like RJ. I think RJ's special. I really do. I think he's a lot better than you think he is. But the LaMelo Ball, I think to me first of all, when he got out of the draft that year, I think Anthony Edwards was the best player in that draft. I do. And as much as I think LaMelo Ball is the best ball out of them all, that's not saying much for all three of them. I mean, Lonzo Ball is played for 2-3 different teams already? Yeah. And the other one, I mean, nobody wants.
Got arrested.
Nobody wants.
I mean, the other one was never an NBA player. I don't think anybody ever expected.
Well, don't tell that to his father.
Yeah, that's fine, but
LeVar's an idiot.
Like, whatever, but, like, that was the thing. But, like, when you watch what LaMelo Ball does, is he brings excitement to the game. That's all I'm saying. And when you're looking across the league, that's what you want. You mentioned Anthony Edwards. Minnesota is now very much more watchable with Anthony Edwards.
You know who LaMelo Ball reminds me of? Jason Williams.
That's a great comp.
That's
a great comp.
That's what I think he is. I think he's never going to be better than Jason Williams. That's what he is. He's a 15. He'll give you 10 assists, and he'll give you 5 rebounds. That's what I think he is. He's a Ben Simmons. That's what he is. He's a little bit, obviously he's better than Ben Simmons because Ben Simmons can't shoot. I mean, but that's what he is. That's the type of player. I can never see him, being a 30 and 10 and something else. I just don't think he's that type of guard.
Yeah, I mean, no, that's fine, though, but build a team around that or with that to help sort of elevate that. I think that's what you're looking at in Charlotte. But to your just larger question in terms of stars around the league, I pointed to places that we probably normally would just skip over in games, and that's what you got is you have stars all over the place where pretty much you can flip on a game now and there's a reason to watch. There's a reason to watch Oklahoma City versus Orlando now. There wasn't a reason last year. But now you have Paolo Banchero versus Chet Holmgren and what's going to go on in Oklahoma City. I think they're going to be a really interesting team. Detroit, tons of fun right now. Cade Cunningham, and at the end of that season, I thought was really impressive. I'm excited for them. There's just a lot of talent to go to that question where across the board, everybody has somebody that you could at least go, cool, I can watch this game for a little bit.
So I want to build off of that question because a lot of these big threes that have been formed in the past too, LeBron obviously starting it and popularizing it too, and then now we've seen other teams try to duplicate it and it hasn't worked. But now we've also seen like maybe 2 stars and depth in these other cities too. Can you see that kind of thing where not necessarily the biggest markets, the LAs, the New Yorks, strive off of that kind of thing, where even those second tier markets that are still good, popular markets can strive?
Yeah, I think you're watching it. And sometimes it's making sure you get the right guy to be in that area that wants to be there. Like, it doesn't feel like Ja Morant wants to leave Memphis anytime soon. It seems like he's all in on Memphis and in a small market. Giannis being a big one, right? Him re-signing was a huge win for Milwaukee and usually for a lot of the small market teams. I feel like there's the possibility there in terms of that. How the teams build, though, it's going to get really interesting now. I think when you look at teams that watched what happened in Brooklyn, in terms of not just going to get Kyrie and KD, then bringing in James Harden, but really kind of just turning the franchise over to those guys. Same thing in LA with them basically just turning the franchise over to clutch management and letting them sort of decide who's not on the team and who they should trade and things like that, and which they should bring in. I think you're going to start to see teams pull back from that a little bit and start to make a little bit more smarter decisions in how they build and think longer term right there. The most important thing, and I know this is my man's favorite team, but the Warriors have been built for the most part from the ground up, right? Besides KD, everybody on that roster for the most part were guys they've drafted and developed. Steph, from Clay, Draymond, to even Kevon Looney, and Andrew Wiggins isn't a guy that they drafted, but they're a guy whose career they turned around, because we weren't talking about him in Minnesota the way we're talking about him now. And I think that's the stuff you're going to start to see a little bit more teams try to focus that way. That's something Memphis is doing right now. Give credit to Boston. That's what Boston has done at this point. I feel like you're going to see more and more of that.
As everybody knows, we are talking to the founder of the jumpball.net, Mo Dakhil. Last question for me, and this is about your favorite guy, Steph Curry. It seems like it's everybody's favorite guy. I think one of the most overrated players in NBA history. You try to compare and contrast these players, and you try to look at Steph Curry, and there's nobody that you can compare to Steph Curry's shooting ability. Nobody. He is a special shooter. There's no question that he is. But his all-around game, for anybody to put this man, first of all, I know he won 4 titles. It takes a team to win 4 titles, okay? For anybody to put him in the top 10 of greatest basketball players is crazy. To even put him in the top 5 of point guards of all time is crazy. Why is it that, not only analysts, but people who obviously didn't watch the game in the 80s and the 90s ever thought or ever think that Steph Curry is anywhere close to the players of an Allen Iverson or, I don't know, John Stockton or Isaiah Thomas? Jason Kidd. John Stockton was a special player. And if you look at the teams that the Utah Jazz, as much as Karl Malone was a great offensive player, he was a great offensive player. That team was so crappy. I mean, honestly, the fact that the Western Conference was so weak at some points when the time of Michael Jordan was dominant, that's the only reason why Utah was in the finals back-to-back years.
Was it Jeff Hornacek was their third best player?
Yeah,
Hornacek, yeah.
I mean, first of all, Jeff Hornacek was a career 14-point scorer. I mean, the fact that anybody thinks that guy should be in the Hall of Fame is ridiculous. But,
please, God, no.
I mean,
everybody gets into the
league. I know. That's what I was just about to say. Everybody's getting into the Hall of Fame.
Can the NBA just put their Hall of Fame voters to baseball that are the other extreme and are too strict?
Well, nobody really even knows who the NBA voters are, but that's a whole other issue. In the Hall of Fame discussions, a whole other discussion.
I agree.
But to your Curry discussion, we're talking about a dude that's had a profound effect on the game in the way, like you talk about Allen Iverson. Let me put it to you this way. AI came into the game, the way he was crossing people up and things like that. Everybody started working in their backyards in terms of crossing guys over and things like that. I'm not 6'6". I can't pretend to dunk or anything like that, but I could work on my crossover, and that's what I was doing when I was watching AI and those things. That's what Curry's done. Curry has kids now, and we can argue whether they should be or not, but he has kids working on their shot now. And that's something that's different, and it's changing the way the game's being played and the way it's going to be played.
I agree.
And the other thing you got to look at, and here's the most important thing. Teams, especially go watch the finals. They were putting 2-3 guys on him, and he was still busting them. He was still busting them. It wasn't a matter of, hey, he's got all this space. They literally were saying, we're going to put a couple guys on you. He's still getting free and hitting threes in their eyes. He's gotten better defensively. He doesn't get as much credit as he deserves defensively, but he's gotten a lot better on that end. He's not to the point where, hey, we're going to be able to go at him constantly. Teams try to, and it's almost like a cornerback that everybody picks on so much. Just out of reps, he's gotten better. And that's exactly what's happened to Curry defensively on that end. Avoids the switches really well until he has to. And at that point, you're late in the clock and you're screwed. I think the scenario when you watch about it with Curry is he has fundamentally changed the game. He's a better passer than I think you're giving him credit to. I think he turns the ball over too much, and that's my big knock on it. That's why I wouldn't put him in the place of, like, I think I have Isaiah higher than him and things like that. But I think there's no way you can argue his greatness.
You think he's the top 5 point guard of all time?
I think he's in the top 5 point guards. I think you kind of have to put him in there. I think you do. I just watch what he does. Go watch. Shoot, was it Game 5 when the Celtics just said,
he scored 43?
We're going to straight.
I remember
Game 4 is when he scored 43. That's not what I'm talking about. Game 5, he had a bad offensive shooting night.
But he missed 9 3-pointers. Yes.
But the Celtics literally just said anybody but him, and he was doing a great job diming people up. did a great job finding Draymond on the short roll and leading to more actions and things like that. That's the stuff you need from Curry. And I think that's the stuff there that we're not giving him credit he deserves, because we're all looking, going like, well, he went 0 for 9 from 3. Bad night. It wasn't a bad night. What's more impressive is the dude went 0 for 9 from 3, and it was a good game that he had. And I think that's something that we got to kind of look at a little bit more. I think he's better than you're giving him credit for. I'm going to put him in the top 5.
All right, my last question is the wave of the league now. We're seeing like obviously the big men fading out the way the true big men, but also there's point guards
because of Steph Curry. Thank you, Steph.
but also I will
not
say
because of Steph.
I would also say this: we discussed
they got to shoot threes, or they're not going to be. They're not.
But that was long before Steph.
Oh,
that was long before Steph. I'm telling you right now, that was long before Steph. The stretch big man was something that came from Europe. And it was something I remember working on in 2010.
Dirk Nowitzki, yes, but Dirk Nowitzki was the first. But I honestly, I think Steph Curry kind of made these big men turn into those 3-point shooters. How are you supposed to win if you have guys shooting 30 to 35 3-point shots and you're hitting, let's say you're hitting 24, 23? How are you supposed to win if you're going into the paint? There's no way you're going to win. Because you're scoring one extra more point than going for a 2, unless you're getting fouled and going to the line.
But it's your job defensively to make sure that these guys aren't getting clean looks at threes and open opportunities, and to run them off the line and force them to take 2s so that they're playing in your area and playing in your world. That's the job when you're a coach in the NBA. When you're strategizing, that's what you got to do. But you can't put that on Curry in terms of the big men, because that's been coming along. I worked with Matt Bonner, the Red Rocket. He was a 3-point shooter as a big man. He wasn't a post-up guy. But, I mean, I think that's the stuff you got to kind of look at.
So my question overall was, we've seen the fading of that, but we've also seen, like, there's not as many top point guards as there was even, like, 6-7 years ago, too, when that was kind of the trend of the league because of the Warriors creating these great back courts. It's more of, like you were saying, stretch big men and also top wings that could handle the ball. Do you think that is the wave of the league now, with maybe, like, a Luka Doncic being the face of it in the future?
Yeah, I'm actually really worried more about the point guard position than I am the big man position. Mm-hmm. We don't have a lot of guys that I like to call connectors, guys that keep the ball moving and keep it flying across the court. You know, guys like Ricky Rubio, they're unsung heroes, but they do a great service for teams. And there's a reason why Cleveland fell apart once he hit his ACL injury, right? Like they started to drop. They were 3rd in the Eastern Conference. Now, granted, they probably wouldn't have stayed that high, but they started to drop because they lost that kind of passing stuff. I think when we're going to lose guys like Chris Paul and things like that, we don't have the guys that move the ball in that sense. And I think it's going to get really worrisome, because now everybody is trying to mimic being a scoring guard. And that's stuff that started as early as Iverson, right? You didn't need to be the point guard. You just be a scoring guard, and that's it. Even if you're undersized, just score a ton and you'll be fine. We're going to be having to watch what happens to the point guard position over the years, because we're not seeing a lot of true, just straight up playmakers.
Well, we really appreciate your time, man. As always, I disagree with Steph Curry. I do not think he's a top 5 point guard of all time. Definitely not a top 10 player of all time. But I would say for what he's done, he's won 4 titles. He's been there. He's been one of the faces of this, this league for the last 10, 12 years. Remember, when he came into the league, man, his first 6 years they weren't the best. He really transformed his game in his 5th or 6th year. I do believe that he's made the game worse, but also made the game more interesting. So it is, because it is more interesting, because now all these guys are trying to shoot half-court threes and do all these crazy things, and Steph Curry really brought it into the league. So I got to give Steph a little bit of credit, but to sit here and say he's one of the greatest of all time, that's a little out there. I do not believe that, but we really appreciate you, man. And we want you on again, because I love arguing with you, as always.
Sounds good, my man.
As everybody knows, we were just talking to the founder of the JumpBall.net, Mo Dakhil. Wonderful guy.
Thank you for having me.
I love to have you, man. I love to have you. Not as much arguing as I expected, but the guy's got his own thoughts, and that's what I love about him. You know.
Fair enough.
And we're both wearing red. I guess.
There we go.
I guess that's something. That's something that we kind of agree to, the red color. But
we could roll with that.
I like it. Is that a soccer? That's a soccer jersey, right?
Yeah, I'm rocking a Mo Salah jersey.
All right, I know Mo Salah. I'm a soccer fan.
There we go.
There you go, man. But we really appreciate you, man, as always.
Thank you
keep up the good
me,
work
guys.
of what you're doing, man. We really enjoy it.
Thank you. All right, I'll see you guys.
Absolutely.